Hello, my name is Chad Wilbanks. I'm the Strategic Director for Training and Technology at the Water Tower. Today I'm going to briefly go over wastewater treatment. So what is wastewater? You might be asking yourself that as you're watching this video. So imagine yourself taking a shower or washing dishes at your house. The water goes through a drain and goes somewhere. It just magically disappears? No. Does it flow out your house and onto the ground? No, that's not allowed either. The flow has to go somewhere to be treated before it can be released back to the environment. So we do that through wastewater treatment. Our first phase of wastewater treatment is our collection system. So the collection system is just as it sounds. It collects the flow from homes and businesses through a series of pipes and pumps, and it transfers it to a wastewater treatment facility. In the case of Gwinnett County, there is over 3,000 miles of collection system piping that allows for the flows to be collected around the county and transferred to their plants. Once the flow is collected, it then moves on to the second phase, which is the screening phase. So imagine anything that can be flushed down a toilet or make its way into a collection system, it's going to make its way to a treatment plant, and it has to be removed because large items or grit, sand, gravel, all that stuff will inhibit the treatment process. So we want to remove that beforehand and allow the process to be as efficient as possible. So when you're at your home and you're thinking about items that are safe to flush, this may sound a little funny, but you need to remember the 3 P's. Pee, paper, and poop. Alright? That sounds silly probably, but those 3 P's, if you remember those, then you're okay with regards to flushing things. Wipes, that starts with a W. Doesn't count, so don't be flushing your wipes. That causes large issues in the collection system as well as the treatment facility. So even if it says it's a flushable wipe, a lot of times those still do not break down like they're designed, and they combine and cause a lot of issues. So when you're thinking about what you can flush or what can go down your drain, remember the 3 P's. Pee, poop, and paper. Alright? So after the wastewater is collected, it then moves on to the second phase of the process, which is the screening process. So we have screening and grit removal. The screening system will remove rocks and rags and grit and things of that nature. The grit removal will take out the smaller particles that make it through the screening, but yet could still cause issues within the plant. So that's your gravel, your sand, any kind of inorganics that are small enough to pass through screening gets removed through that process. So we remove our gravel, grit, we remove our sand, we remove rocks and logs and roots and anything of that nature. Get all those things out, put them into a dumpster, send them to the landfill, and then we can start our treatment process. So as we're moving into our third part of the process, it's clarification. We allow the water enough time to kind of settle out a little bit. So some of the solids that are present in the water but were too fine to be removed through screening or through grit removal will actually settle out in this process. And then the water itself will go over a weir and move into the fourth part of the process, which is our biological activity. So inside the biology process, essentially microbes will break down nutrients, they'll break down pathogens, and that is where about 85% of our pathogen removal and treatment takes place, is inside the biology part of the plant. So after the biology does its thing, all the microbes, they're happy, they've ate, they've reproduced, and some of them have died, and then the cycle is continued. The flow is then conditioned and ready for the next phase of the process, which is sedimentation in some areas, or I like to call it secondary clarification. So in secondary clarification, the flow comes into the tank, and by gravity, all of your solids will settle out, and your clear water goes over the weir and is ready to be filtered. Filtration is the next part of the process. So we filter out anything that's left, and although the water looks pretty clean when it goes over the weir of the clarifier, there's still things in there that are not necessary and are definitely not suitable to be returned back to the environment. So we filter those items out. Once they're filtered, then the flow is disinfected. So by disinfection, we then destroy any remaining pathogens that may be in the water, and the water is then safe for recreational use and ready to be discharged to lakes and streams. So that was a very brief overview of wastewater treatment and what wastewater is. I highly suggest you contact your local municipality and see if you can schedule a tour, because you can watch a video on it, you can do some research on it, but there's nothing like actually seeing it in person. especially when you go to that first phase of treatment and you see how smelly and nasty looking the water is. You go through the plant and then you get to the final phase of treatment and you see how clean it looks, how nice it smells, and how refreshing it is. And then you really get the full experience of just what it takes to treat that flow and get it to the standards that it needs to be in order to be returned back to the environment. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. I thank you for watching this video, and be on the lookout for videos in the future where we'll go further in depth into the different processes of both water and wastewater treatment. Thank you.